Welcome to Stuff They Didn't Teach Me in Sunday School. They say what goes around comes around. For Joseph's brothers, that's true. We're going to bridge the gap a little bit in this session. We're going to take a lot of territory through Genesis, finish up the book. But what goes around comes around for Joseph's brothers. They'd sold him into slavery. He ends up in prison in Egypt. He ends up elevated out of prison in Egypt, and he becomes the second in command in one of the most powerful nations in the world. There comes a day when a famine in Israel causes Joseph's brothers to go to Egypt to buy food. And they confront their brother, but they don't know he's their brother. And you have a story in that Genesis section of Joseph now really kind of jerking his brothers around a little bit. He fixes them up with food. They still don't know he's their brother. He says, you got to leave one son here. So they leave Simeon, send the rest back with packs of food, and when they open their packs, they find out that the money they paid for the food is back in the sacks. Well, how do you go back to Egypt now? You got a brother that's stuck back in Egypt, Simeon, and you can now be charged with stealing the money that you were supposed to pay for this food. So they don't go back. They go to their dad and now have to explain, Dad, we lost another brother. Simeon's in Egypt. The guy in Egypt said we had to leave one. We're supposed to go back and get him, but we can't go back because the money was in the bags. Interestingly, they do go back. But they go back not to get Simeon. They go back because they're hungry again and there's no food. And Egypt has a corner on the market because of Joseph's wisdom and Joseph's ability to manage. So they have to go back, and he jerks them around again a little bit. This time he puts their money back in their sack again. He lets Simeon go. And into Benjamin's sack, he puts his own cup. So that when they open their bags and a little ways away, there's the money, and lo and behold, the other favorite son, it looks as if he's stolen Joseph's cup. There's a touching scene when they come back, when they're called back, they're reunited, and Joseph has to go in the other room because he's crying. He comes back out, announces who he is, and there's this touching reunion. First fearful because the brothers aren't sure that he's not going to kill all of them for what he's already done. And Joseph points out, no, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And God did mean it for good. He used Joseph to save this family that would later become a nation, to save them, to get them to Egypt so that they could eventually become a great nation, that great nation that he promised to Abraham. A couple interesting points at the end of the book. At the end of the book of Genesis, chapter 48, Jacob is going to bless all of his sons, but he starts with Joseph's two sons. After this, Joseph was sold. Behold, your father is ill. So he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And it was told to Jacob, your son Joseph has come to you. Then Israel, or Jacob, summoned his strength and sat up in bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, and said to me, behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will make you a company of peoples. And he rehearses that promise that God had made to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, and now to the 12 sons. And he says, and now your two sons, who were born to you in the land of Egypt, before I came to you in Egypt, are mine. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine, as Reuben and Simeon are. And Jacob adopts and gives full inheritance rights to Ephraim and Manasseh, the two sons of Joseph. Well, that poses an interesting situation as it goes down through history, because each of these sons would become the father of a tribe. And now you have 13 tribes, 12 sons, but 13 tribes, because Joseph's sons each get a share in that tribal breakdown. However, when it comes to being landed later on, when they get the land later on, there are only 12 tribes that get land, Manasseh and Ephraim included in those 12. The sons of Levi are the priestly tribes, and they're scattered throughout. But Manasseh and Ephraim are elevated to full sonship in that nation of Israel. We're told that 70 people went down to Egypt because of the famine. 70 people of the house of Jacob end up in Egypt. That kind of closes off the book of Genesis. It sets the stage for God's central action in the entire Old Testament, the Exodus event. It gives you the reason why the nation of Israel is in Egypt and why God has to break into history to redeem and save and rescue his people. A beautiful story ahead, and Genesis has set the stage for us.